Oh, hello, this is Tak Chung from Walk with Tak. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Over the years, I have an impression that you can only stir fry if you have a very powerful burner. So when we decided that we're going to purchase a flat top electric range, I said to myself, I probably would not be able to stir fry anymore. Because like many people, I am under the impression only gas is good for stir frying. Partly because of all the famous pictures of restaurants, they stir frying in these very powerful gas burners. And that they can cook anything in an instant. And therefore, when you cook on a light-duty gas stove, or an electric coil stove like this one, or a modern version of an induction stove, it's just not going to do it. And therefore, the conclusion for many people is that you need a commercial-grade stove in order to stir-fry properly. And many people actually put such a stove in their kitchen in order to give you enough BTU to stir-fry like you would do in a restaurant. And therefore, in our case, when we decided to change to a glass-top electric range for our home kitchen, I said to myself, I better kiss goodbye for stir-frying. Or I just set up a high-power propane stove outside the house. And this is not going to work very well in a Midwestern winter. And fortunately, I was wrong about it. Well, it turned out that all kitchen stoves, including a gas stove, an electric coil stove, or a flat glass electric top, or even an induction stove, all provide enough heat for stir-frying. In fact, some of the time, it is simply too much heat, and the end result, most people actually reluctant to do stir-frying in their kitchen. In fact, one of my friends told me that every time he does stir-frying, there's so much heat and smoke, he often set off the smoke alarm. It happens so often to the point that his wife banned him from doing stir-frying in their kitchen. So what is stir-frying? In principle, stir-frying is no different from deep frying. If you can deep fry in your kitchen without generating a lot of film, you should be able to do that with stir-frying as well. To really understand how to control the amount of heat that you require for stir-frying, it is important to understand what is frying all about. The reason that frying makes food taste good is based on a chemical reaction known as the Maillard reaction. The basic principle of the Maillard reaction is that when food is heated to the temperature between 250 to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, the molecule on the cell surface of the food start to interact with each other, and from that it creates flavor molecules. And when you cook food in oil, the temperature of the oil are able to reach about 400 degrees or higher, and the end result is create this temperature zone for Maillard reaction to take place. So stir frying is basically a technique is to cook the food at this temperature zone. By cooking them in only a small amount of oil, and by constantly stirring them, you will have the food to reach that cooking temperature. So therefore, you really do not need a lot of heat. All you need is to have enough heat to maintain the Maillard temperature zone. In the following, I'm going to give you 4 guidelines of how to keep the wok at the temperature zone that allow the Maillard reaction to take place. Guideline number 1 is to heat the oil as hot as possible before you add the food ingredients to the wok. The temperature of the oil is limited by its smoking point, which is the temperature when the chemical structure of the oil starts to dissociate. And this is frequently referred to as the smoking point, and this is when you notice that the oil starts to smoke. And oil has a high smoking point has an advantage. And once you notice that the oil starts to smoke, you know you cannot get any higher in that temperature. This is when you're going to add the food ingredient to the wok. As soon as you add the food ingredients to the wok, the temperature oil is going to drop. And it will take some time for the temperature to go back up again. Also, there is a great advantage to have the oil as hot as possible. And therefore, there is a disadvantage for oil that has a low smoking point. because your initial temperature would be lower. This is the primary reason that why you want to use cooking oil with a high smoking point. The second guideline is to cook only the amount of food that could be handled by the heating capacity of your stove. Again, the temperature of your wok is going to be governed by the amount of food that you have in the wok. If you have a low capacity stove, when you add a lot of food to the wok, it will take some time for the temperature to come up again. It is not uncommon for the temperature to drop way below the Maillard reaction range. In this case, this is commonly what is known as you are overcrowding your wok. With different heating capacity of different stoves, it would take a little bit of trial and error to figure out what is the right amount of food that your stove are capable to support in cooking in the wok. In a professional kitchen, they choose to use high-power stove because they can cook food much quicker. This is particularly important when it is in a business where time is an essence. Guideline number 3 is any moisture that should be eliminated in your food ingredients before you put them into the wok. Anytime when you introduce moisture into the wok, you will lower the cooking temperature. Most vegetable contains moisture, particularly after you wash them. You should find a convenient way to dry them as much as possible before cooking them. When it comes to meat, in addition to drying them with a paper towel, you can also coat them with cornstarch. By coating the meat with a thin layer of cornstarch, it will absorb the moisture and therefore it will have less likelihood to reduce the cooking temperature of the wok. Guideline number 4 is to separate the cooking sessions of different ingredients that combine into a single dish. For example, if you have a dish containing both meat and vegetable, you can cook them separately. You can cook the meat in a different cooking session and the vegetable in another cooking session, and at the end you can combine them together. In this case, you can cook a large dish without overcrowding the wok and hence reduce the temperature in the wok. With this approach, you can reach the Maillard temperature zone using any type of stoves that's available to you. So it really doesn't matter the heat capacity of your stove. You might take a little bit longer to cook a dish if the stove is not as hot as compared to others. And once you learn the heating capacity of the stove, you can make adjustment for it to reach the Maillard temperature zone. So in summary, these 4 guidelines are: number 1, heat the oil as hot as possible to the smoking point of the oil, and use oil with the highest smoking point. And number 2, cook according to the heating capacity of your stove. Do not overcrowd the wok. And number 3, dry your food ingredients thoroughly before you add them to the wok. And number 4, cook any of your large dishes in separate sections and combine them together at the end. And when you use these 4 guidelines, you should be able to cook in any stove with different heat capacities. I post a video every day to help people to adopt my fast cooking system so that they could cook daily. If you'd like to learn more about my cooking system, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Keep on cooking. I will see you tomorrow.